Hey guys, Dan here with Hardly Brief Programming. This is episode 6 of our platform tutorial, and today we're going to be taking a look at colliders and triggers. In the last episode, we worked with raycasts. I showed you guys how to create a raycast. If I go in my creature class here, I commented out all the code, but you can see that we looked at creating a raycast, a physics 2D one. We looked at looking at the data in raycast hit. We created a draw ray using debug.drawRay that basically creates the red line that shows the raycast that we fired. And we created some logic, some basic if-else logic to look at what we hit, and if it was character robot boy, then announce it to our console so we can double check. Now, I commented out all this code because in the last video I said we aren't going to be using it, but it's there for you to use if you'd like. Just a reminder, all these scripts are available to download off the GitHub, and the link is down in the description below, so go ahead and check that out if you'd like to download all this information. But today in this video, like I said, we're going to be looking at colliders and using those colliders as triggers. So the first thing to talk about, I guess, is we're going to be using the box collider. And if you'd like to use another collider, you're more than welcome to. The code will work the same. The only issue is if it's below the character, like this box is now, you might need to make some logic that says, hey, if I spot something that's in a lower Y value than me, then ignore it. I don't want to do that, so we're going to just not do that for now. But I'm going to set up this box collider like how it is. And what I want to show you is if you don't hit this is trigger button, but basically if you hit the is trigger button, this boolean over here, it's going to allow the character to pass through the collider. It's not going to detect all the collisions like normals. But if you don't, then it's going to act as an invisible wall. So now the is trigger's off. If I run into the box, it's going to get stopped, and it's going to act like there's an invisible wall here. This is actually how, like in let's say like World of Warcraft, they have invisible walls set up. They're just colliders. It's detecting, saying, hey, you can't go past this point. Right, but they don't put it. They don't give it a renderer. They don't give any. The collider doesn't have any material on it. But we want to set up as a trigger so that we can pass through it. Right. So I set it. I hit the is trigger button, and now I can run through it. Totally fine. There's no issues. So now, make sure out of play mode you hit is trigger so it's on, and we're going to be taking a look at 3 methods that come with Unity. The first one, and they're all very simple and similar, but the first one's called void on trigger enter, and it's 2D because we're in Unity 2D, right? It takes a collider 2D, and we're going to call it other just like the documentation does. Keep it kind of this similar, and this gets called as soon, I'm going to say as soon as a collider. It doesn't matter what collider, but as soon as a collider enters the collider attached, we'll say attached to this game object, this is called. So as soon as the collider enters the collider attached to this game object, this method is called once per collider. So that's important. If you have 30 colliders on your character, this will be called. If all 30 of them hit the collider, all 30 of them will be called. But basically, I'll leave these comments up. I won't delete them. But this is how that method works, right? So as soon as I enter the collider, this method's going to be called, and I'll prove that with the debug statement. We'll say debug log this.gameObject.name, so green slime 1 plus, we'll say spotted, and we'll say other.gameObject.name, right? We don't care what we're looking at right now, but we want to see what we spotted, right? So I'll hit Control to save. I'm going to go into Unity. I'll press play, and as soon as the character robot boy passes through this green line, you'll see a statement down here in the bottom left hand corner, right? So it says spotted the character robot boy, so we know that method working. Now there's 2 other ones. I'm going to type them out real quick, and we're going to say void on trigger exit 2D, and that also takes a collider 2D, and we'll call it other. And I'm going to highlight this using shift and arrows, and then paste it with Control V. And instead of exit, it's going to be stay. Right? And I'll make some comments here to say, so basically this is called when a collider leaves the collider set as a trigger. That's a little bit easier way of explaining. It's basically the same premise of the inner, except when it leaves. And then again for the stay, this is called when a collider sits in the trigger. Pretty self-explanatory with the names, but if you didn't know how they work, that's how they work. So now we're going to create a couple debug statements to kind of prove that they're working. So here I just copied the debug statement, and instead of spotted when we leave, we're going to be searching, right? So we're going to say is searching, period. We don't know what we're searching for, but we're searching for something. And then finally, as soon as if we're staying in the collider, then we're probably chasing, right? So we're going to be chasing whatever we're spotted. And so in Unity, we already saw spotted, but we should see chasing when we sit in it, and then when we leave, we should see is searching. So I hit Control S to save, go into Unity. I'm going to hit play again. And as soon as I enter and say in it, it says is chasing. As soon as I leave, and now it says is searching. So those are basically how the trigger methods work. Pretty simple, pretty self-explanatory. But now what we're going to be doing in this video is we're going to be taking a look at creating... I'm going to comment all this out so you guys have it for you. But we're going to be taking a look at creating another state, right? And our states are these numerators. We're actually going to create another one. And this is going to be a chase state, as we call it. And it's going to be a public virtual, again, so we can override it in the if we inherit this later down the road. And we're going to call this, it's going to return type, i.e. numerator. And we're going to call it chase. And for the time being, we're actually going to have an argument, and the argument's going to be game object. We'll call it go. And all we'll do right now is say yield return null, right? So we're not actually doing anything, but we want to go ahead and call it, and we're going to call it. We're going to call chase. We're going to start the coroutine as soon as we enter the collider. So as soon as we enter the inner 2D, we want to call chase, right? So not idle, but we'll call chase. And we also need to pass it the game object go. And the way we do that is we say other, which is a collider, and we get other game object, other.gameObject, and it's going to pass in the game object that has entered the trigger to our chase coroutine, and therefore will be in our chase state. The one big issue now, though, is that our idle state is still going, right? Because we have this while loop that says, hey, continue our idle state until we're not idle. So we need to set that bool is idle to false. So we'll set that equal to false, and as at the end of the frame, right? At the end of the frame when return null, it's going to come back up. It's going to check, hey, is idle true? No, it's not. So it's going to exit out of the idle, and it's going to kill that coroutine, so we're not running it in the background. The only coroutine that will be in is chase. Now you might see a glaring issue, and the glaring issue is this. Well, if we're in chase, that's great, but we're not actually doing anything in chase. We're just sitting. It's gonna set is idle to false, and it's gonna immediately quit. So we're gonna actually create another while loop. I'm gonna write true in there for now. Put my brackets. I'm gonna scroll up to the top. Zoom in a bit more. I'm gonna create another public bool. We're gonna call it is chasing equals false, right? We're not chasing off the start. I'm gonna copy that. I'm gonna scroll all the way back down, and instead of the true, we're gonna write is chasing. So we need to set is chasing to true. So we'll do that right after we set is idle to false. We'll say is chasing equals true, and then we're gonna output a debug statement, and the debug statement is gonna be this chasing one. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to paste it right above there. And I'm going to leave it like that. Actually, I'm going to put this coroutine down below our debug statement. Now, what we want to do is run a check. So before we start a coroutine chase, we want to make sure that we're actually, the object that's going to be chasing is our character robot boy and not anything else. Because like I said, it can be any collider that collides with this creature that will call the onTrigger enter, and we only want to enter chase state if we are colliding with our character robot boy. So we're going to say if, an if statement, and we're going to say if other dot game object dot name, right? We've done this before, is equal to double equals character robot boy. So if that's true, if the game object we collide with or enters our trigger is called character robot boy, then we're going to start the coroutine chase, and we're going to pass in the object, which is the character robot boy object, to our chase coroutine, and this is supposed to be go, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to set idle to false, so we kill the idle coroutine. We're going to set is chasing to true. We're going to output a debug statement that says, hey, this game object, green slime 1, is chasing, and we'll say is chasing go.gameObject.name, which will be our character robot boy. As soon as that happens, we're going to enter a while loop, and we're going to stay in that while loop for is chasing. I'm also going to put a yield return null in the while loop so we don't hang up Unity and have to cause a restart. But that's basically it, right? So let's make sure this works. And I guess I'll put a debug statement in here just to make sure that we're in our while loop, just to make sure it's all coming together. And I'm just going to delete all that, and I'll put, hey. I like to put little simple debug statements like this to kind of catch loops. You can put breakpoints and stuff so that you know, hey, this is where I got to. It's really, really helpful for solving looping issues and stuff. But anyways, hit Control S to save, go into Unity. We're going to press play. And we should enter the chase state. So there's not much happening, right? If I go to the scene here, you can see, yeah, Hay's outputting, and we're entering the chasing state, right? Now you're going to see two here, or excuse me, you see the one here, which is great. We're entering that state just exactly how we want, and everything's working fine. We're not really doing anything yet, right? We're just entering, we're just changing the states around. We're not actually moving towards the creature, and that's what we're going to be looking at the next video. How can we, now that we're entering chase state, how can we move to that creature? And then we also got to explore, hey, when I leave the range of vision, what happens? So in the next video, you guys can look forward to that. Hopefully you guys learned something. Again, all this is available for free to download in the description below. Otherwise, I'll talk to you guys next time.